There are moments in history when heaven interrupts the ordinary rhythm of life with a divine emergency. February 28th is not just another date on the calendar. It is a spiritual checkpoint. It is a line drawn in the unseen realm. And right now, there is a countdown happening that most people cannot see. 15 seconds. That is the urgency being released over your life. 15 seconds left to save your blessing. This is not symbolic exaggeration. This is a prophetic alert. Archangel Michael is sounding the alarm because something hath been dispatched from heaven with your name on it, and the enemy is attempting to intercept it. There is a package in the spirit realm addressed specifically to you. It carries favor, restoration, breakthrough, and answers that you have prayed for. But here's the shocking revelation. The enemy is trying to sign for your package. He is attempting to authorize access to something that does not belong to him. You may not see it with your physical eyes, but there is movement in the unseen realm. February 28th represents a deadline, a closing window, a divine appointment, the end of a cycle and the beginning of something new. Heaven does not operate randomly. When a blessing is released, it is intentional, targeted, and assigned. And when it is assigned, opposition often rises to challenge its delivery. The enemy knows what is inside your package. He knows the impact it will have on your family, your calling, your future. That is why this emergency is being declared. Because what is coming to you is not small, it is not ordinary. It carries weight in the spirit. It carries momentum. And if it lands in your hands, it will shift the trajectory of what happens next in your life. But here is the danger. In the spirit, authorization matters. Agreement matters. Silence can sometimes be interpreted as consent. And when heaven releases something, there must be a response from the one it is assigned to. That is why the message is so urgent. Open this and claim it first, before the enemy tries to sign, before doubt tries to delay you, before distraction makes you unaware of what is happening around you. This is not about fear. This is about awareness. This is about positioning. You are being awakened in real time to a spiritual delivery that is at your door. Archangel Michael does not step into battles casually. He is a commander of heavenly armies. He stands where protection is required. He intervenes where there is attempted spiritual theft. And the fact that his name is attached to this message tells you how serious this moment is. There are some blessings that arrive quietly, and then there are some that require defense. What is coming to you requires defense. The enemy's strategy is subtle. He tries to create confusion. He tries to make you feel unworthy. He whispers that maybe it was not meant for you after all. He attempts to forge a signature through your doubt, your hesitation, your past mistakes. But heaven is saying, this is yours, and it must not be claimed by another. 15 seconds is symbolic of immediacy. It represents a decision point. A moment where hesitation could cost you timing. Have you ever missed a delivery because you were not paying attention? In the natural world, a package can be returned to sender if no one claims it. In the spiritual realm, unclaimed blessings can be delayed, redirected, or contested. This is why the urgency is real. February 28th marks the end of a spiritual cycle. What was held back in previous months is now being released. But release requires readiness, and readiness requires awareness. This is not about striving. It is about standing. Standing in authority. Standing in agreement with what heaven has already decided about you. The enemy can attempt to sign, but he does not have your authority. He does not have your name. He does not have your identity. Yet if you remain passive, if you ignore the knock at the door, if you dismiss this warning as coincidence, you risk allowing interference where there should be celebration. Right now, there is a divine urgency flowing through this message because time-sensitive grace has been activated. February 28th is a spiritual timestamp. Something shifts at this hour. Something transitions. The enemy senses it. That is why the attempt to intercept is happening before the month closes. But heaven always reveals before it rescues. You are not hearing this by accident. You are not watching this randomly. This is your alert. Your wake-up call. Your moment to respond. 15 seconds left to save your blessing. That phrase is not meant to produce panic. It is meant to awaken power. It is meant to remind you that you have authority to claim what belongs to you. You have the right to open what heaven has sent. The enemy may try to approach the door, pen in hand, attempting to authorize a theft. But he cannot override your voice when you speak. He cannot override your declaration when you stand in agreement with heaven. February 28th is an emergency in the spirit because something valuable is in transit. And this is the moment where you decide, will you open it first, or will you let interference attempt to redirect what carries your name? The countdown has begun. The knock is at the door, and heaven is watching to see how you respond. Should I write part 2? There is something powerful about seeing your name written clearly on a package. It means it was not sent by accident. It was not misaddressed. It was not meant for someone else. It was prepared, sealed, and dispatched specifically for you. And in the Spirit, heaven operates with even greater precision. What is being released over your life right now carries your identity. It carries your calling. It carries promises that were spoken over you long before you understood their weight. This is not random favor floating in the atmosphere. This is a targeted delivery. February 28th is the appointed moment when what has been processed behind the scenes is now arriving at your door. But here is what most people do not realize. Blessings can be delayed, but they are not easily denied. When heaven authorizes something, it goes through stages: preparation, approval, dispatch, and then delivery. Many of you have been in the preparation stage for months, maybe even years. You felt pressure. You felt stretching. You felt like nothing was moving. But what you did not see was that your package was being assembled piece by piece. Doors were being aligned. Conversations were being orchestrated. Protection was being assigned. And now, at the edge of this month, the delivery phase has begun. The enemy understands timing. He cannot create blessing, but he can attempt interception. His strategy is rarely loud. It is subtle. He introduces distraction at the moment of arrival. He creates discouragement when breakthrough is closest. He plants doubt when confidence is required. Why? Because if he can get you to step back from your door, even for a moment, he can attempt to sign for what was never his. Spiritually, signing represents agreement. It represents acceptance. And if you begin to agree with thoughts like, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I missed my chance, you unintentionally give space for interference. But hear this clearly: what heaven has your name on cannot legally belong to another. The enemy can knock, but he cannot override your authority. The only way he gains access is through your silence or your surrender. That is why this message is so urgent. February 28th is not just a closing date. It is a transfer date. Something is moving from delay into manifestation, and you must be spiritually present when it arrives. Imagine a courier standing at your door with a sealed package marked with your full name. A sender is heaven. The contents are breakthrough, restoration, answered prayer, open doors, financial shift, healing, reconciliation, whatever you have been crying out for in secret. Now imagine someone else stepping forward, pretending to be you, trying to claim it. That is what spiritual interception looks like. It is impersonation. It is unauthorized access. It is a counterfeit signature. But heaven does not recognize counterfeit identity. Heaven recognizes your voice. This is the moment to respond. This is the moment to declare that blessing belongs to me. Do not let fear mute you. Do not let past mistakes convince you that you are unworthy of what had been sent. The package was not prepared based on your perfection. It was prepared based on divine promise. And promise does not expire because of opposition. As you are hearing this, something inside you is stirring. That stirring is not emotion. It is recognition. It is your spirit realizing that something significant is happening right now. And this is why you must engage. If this message is speaking directly to your situation, take a moment to like this video as a sign of agreement. When you like it, you are not just interacting with content. You are aligning yourself with the declaration being released. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, because these prophetic alerts are not coincidences. They are assignments. Share this message with someone who feels like they are on the edge of losing hope. They may be in their own 15-second window and not even realize it. And in the comments, write, "I claim what has my name on it." Your declaration matters. There is power in collective agreement. When voices rise together in faith, interference weakens. The enemy thrives in isolation, but he retreats in the presence of bold declaration. February 28th is exposing what was hidden. It is revealing attempted theft before it succeeds. And because you are aware, you are not vulnerable. You are positioned. The package with your name on it is not a small envelope. It is weighty. It carries substance. It carries acceleration. Once you open it, things will begin to move quickly. That is another reason the enemy tries to intercept it before delivery. He knows that once it is in your hands, momentum shifts in your favor. Opportunities will align. Clarity will replace confusion. Strength will replace exhaustion. And doors that seem sealed will begin to open without resistance. So stand at your door spiritually. Be alert. Be ready. February 28th is not ending in loss. It is ending in transfer. And what is being transferred has your name written clearly across it. Do not step back. Do not hesitate. The courier from heaven is at your door, and the enemy's attempt to sign is being exposed in real time. This is your moment to claim it first. There is a battle happening that most people never see, yet it determines outcomes in powerful ways. It is not a battle of weapons. It is not a battle of noise. It is a battle of signatures. In the spirit realm, authorization is everything. A signature represents agreement. It represents consent. It represents legal access. And right now, there is a signature war over your life. February 28th has activated a divine document with your name written across it, and heaven is waiting for your agreement before it releases full manifestation. At the same time, the enemy is attempting to forge consent through fear, doubt, delay, and distraction. The question is simple but urgent. Who signs first? When heaven prepares a blessing, it is not randomly dropped. It is assigned. It is processed through divine order. But even divine order respects human response. Throughout spiritual history, breakthrough followed agreement. Doors opened when someone said yes. Protection manifested when someone stood firm. The enemy understands this principle, which is why he rarely attacks the blessing itself. Instead, he targets your agreement. If he can get you to internally sign a contract of discouragement, if he can get you to believe that nothing is changing, he attempts to build a case for interception. Think about what a signature means. It confirms identity. It validates ownership. It declares, "This belongs to me." Now imagine the enemy trying to stamp his influence over something that was addressed to you. He cannot create your name, but he can attempt to confuse your confidence. He whispers that you waited too long. He tells you that February 28th is just another day. He tries to convince you that there is no urgency. And if you accept that narrative, even silently, he treats your passivity as permission. But here is the truth that shifts everything. Silence is not surrender when awareness is awakened. You are hearing this because heaven refuses to let your blessing be quietly contested. This is why the message feels intense. This is why it feels time-sensitive. The 15 seconds represent a decision window. Not a literal stopwatch, but a prophetic moment of response. A moment when hesitation could open a door for interference, where bold declaration could seal the victory. The signature war is not about effort, it is about authority. You do not need to fight for what is already yours. You need to agree with it. You need to stand in alignment with what heaven has already written about you. When you declare, "I receive what has my name on it," you are placing your signature on the document of promise. And when your signature is present, counterfeit authorization loses power. February 28th marks the closing of a spiritual chapter. Some of you have been tested in patience. Some of you have endured silence where you expected answers. Some of you have watched others receive while you waited. But what you did not see was the paperwork being finalized in the unseen realm. Approval has already been stamped in heaven. The only remaining step is your agreement. This is why the enemy is rushing. He senses the deadline. He senses the release. He knows that once you consciously claim your portion, the interception attempt collapses. Do not underestimate the power of your voice. Your declaration shifts atmosphere. Your agreement activates movement. When you align with heaven, resistance weakens. This is not superstition. This is spiritual law. And right now, the war is over. Who signs first to fear or faith, doubt or declaration, hesitation or authority? You may feel pressure as this date approaches. You may notice increased distraction, unexpected frustration, or sudden waves of uncertainty. That is not coincidence. That is resistance reacting to revelation. But resistance always intensifies before it breaks. And this is the breaking point. February 28th is not ending in loss. It is ending in exposure. The enemy's attempt to sign for your package has been revealed before completion. That means you still have the upper hand. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can remain passive and let circumstances narrate your story. Or you can actively declare that what heaven has addressed to you will not be misdirected. This is your signature moment. This is where you step forward spiritually and say, "No counterfeit has permission. No forged agreement stands. I claim what carries my name." And something is about to shift because of that decision. What comes next will confirm why this warning had to be urgent. You will be glad you positioned yourself for what is about to unfold. Type "I authorize heaven" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 911 is now activated. As this signature war settles in your favor, I want to speak directly to those who feel the weight of this moment. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not funding a channel. You are helping deliver prophetic warnings to souls standing in their own 15-second window. Scripture declares that as you sow beside all waters, you will reap in due season, and I declare that promise over you now. This is your moment to respond not only in agreement for yourself, but as a messenger for others. If this word stirred you, let your action echo your faith. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code appears in this video as a doorway of obedience. Those who give in alignment with this message are sealing their own declaration with generosity. Step into it boldly. Activate the harvest. There are moments when heaven does not simply observe, it intervenes. And this is one of those moments. The urgency surrounding February 28th is not unfolding without response from above. Archangel Michael has stepped into this situation because what is happening around your blessing requires enforcement, not just encouragement. When his name is connected to a message, it signals something serious. It signals protection. It signals defense. It signals that a line hath been drawn in the spirit realm and will not be crossed without consequence. Archangel Michael is known as a warrior, a defender, a commander of heavenly armies. His presence represents order confronting chaos. He does not move in panic, and he does not respond to minor disturbances. He responds when destiny is contested. He responds when divine assignments face unauthorized interference. And right now, your package, your blessing, your breakthrough, your answered prayer has triggered movement in the unseen realm because it carries long-term impact. This is not just about a single moment of favor. This is about a shift that alters direction. When heaven releases something significant, protection is assigned to it. Just as valuable shipments in the natural world are escorted and tracked, spiritual deliveries of great importance are guarded. You may not see the escort, but it exists. You may not hear the battle, but it is happening. Archangel Michael's intervention means that what hath been sent to you is not ordinary. It is strategic. It is timed. It is necessary for what comes next in your life. The enemy attempted to sign for your package quietly. He attempted to create confusion, hoping you would not recognize the delivery. But exposure changes everything. Once a counterfeit strategy is revealed, its power weakens. And that is exactly what is happening right now. The intervention of Archangel Michael signals that heaven will not allow theft where covenant exists. What is addressed to you cannot be legally reassigned. You might wonder why such high-level protection would be involved in your situation. But consider this. Sometimes the blessing is not only about you. Sometimes it is about the people connected to you. The family members who will be impacted. The doors that will open for others because of your obedience. The generational shift that begins with your breakthrough. The enemy does not fight small battles. He fights potential. And the intensity of resistance often reveals the magnitude of what is being delivered. February 28th represents more than a date. It represents a transition point. Cycles are closing. Accounts are being settled. What was delayed is now being expedited. And when acceleration begins, protection intensifies. Archangel Michael's presence in this narrative confirms that acceleration is happening in your favor. The attempted intersection is not a sign of failure. It is proof of movement. There is also something deeply personal about this intervention. Heaven is not distant from your situation. He is attentive. The prayers you whispered when no one else was listening were recorded. The tears you shed in private were seen. The frustration you felt while waiting was not ignored. And now, at this critical hour, assistance hath been dispatched not because you demanded it, but because promise requires preservation. The enemy thrives on intimidation. He tries to make you believe that opposition means defeat. But opposition often precedes enforcement, and enforcement is what Archangel Michael represents. He enforces what heaven has authorized. He stands at the boundary where destiny meets resistance and declares, "No further." This is not symbolic language. This is spiritual reality. Protection is active. Defense is engaged. As February 28th approaches its climax, do not interpret turbulence as loss. Turbulence can be the sound of shifting. It can be the sound of interference being dismantled. When a battle is being resolved in your favor, you may sense movement before you see manifestation. But manifestation follows resolution, and resolution is happening now. You are not standing alone at this door. You are not guarding your blessing by yourself. There is reinforcement present. There is heavenly authority backing your declaration. When you align your voice with what heaven has spoken, you are not speaking into emptiness. You are speaking alongside armies. And here is what changes everything. Once Archangel Michael steps in, the outcome tilts toward preservation. The enemy may attempt noise, but he cannot override command. He may attempt intimidation, but he cannot overrule authorization. What has been approved in heaven carries more authority than any counterfeit signature. This intervention marks a turning point. The attempted signing is being blocked. The delivery is being protected. The transition of February 28th is not ending in theft. It is ending in confirmation. And as this protection remains active around your life, you can stand with confidence, knowing that what carries your name is being guarded until it rests securely in your hands. When a blessing is close, the enemy rarely attacks in obvious ways. He does not always show up with visible resistance or dramatic opposition. Instead, he moves strategically, subtly, almost invisibly. And that is exactly why this moment required exposure. February 28th has uncovered a plan that was designed to operate quietly. The attempt was not to destroy your blessing outright, but to redirect it, to tamper with it, to create enough confusion that you would question whether it was ever meant for you. But now the strategy is being exposed, and exposure dismantles deception. The first tactic the enemy uses is distraction. When something valuable is about to arrive, your attention is pulled in multiple directions. Unexpected stress appears. Minor conflicts suddenly feel overwhelming. Responsibilities multiply. You find yourself emotionally drained without clear reason. This is not random. Distraction is designed to shift your focus away from the door. If you are preoccupied, you are less alert. If you are overwhelmed, you are less responsive. And in that small window of inattention, interception becomes easier. The second tactic is doubt. The enemy whispers questions that seem harmless at first. What if this isn't really happening? What if you misunderstood the timing? What if you are hoping for something that was never promised? These thoughts are not casual. They are calculated. Doubt weakens expectation, and weakened expectation reduces readiness. If you do not expect a delivery, you are less likely to respond when the knock comes. Then comes the tactic of delay. Delay is one of the enemy's most powerful tools because it tests endurance. When something takes longer than anticipated, frustration grows. Hope begins to thin. You start adjusting your expectations downward to protect yourself from disappointment. But delay does not mean cancellation. Often, delay means preparation. However, if the enemy can convince you that delay equals denial, you may voluntarily step back from what is already in transit. Another strategy is accusation. The enemy will attempt to bring up past mistakes, reminding you of moments when you felt unworthy or unprepared. He tries to build a narrative that disqualifies you. Someone else deserves this more. You missed your opportunity. You failed before, so why would it change now? These accusations are meant to erode confidence. And without confidence, you may hesitate to claim what has your name on it. But here is what exposure reveals. None of these tactics have legal authority. They rely entirely on persuasion. The enemy cannot write what heaven has authorized. He cannot erase your name from what was prepared for you. All he can do is attempt to convince you to step aside voluntarily. That is the hidden layer of this strategy. It is psychological before it is spiritual. It seeks your agreement more than your defeat. February 28th is significant because timing amplifies tactics. The closer you get to breakthrough, the more intense the interference may feel. This is not because you are losing ground. It is because you are gaining proximity. Resistance increases when impact is near. The enemy senses the shift before you see it. He recognizes movement in the unseen realm. And when acceleration begins, he scrambles to create last-minute obstacles. There is also the tactic of comparison. You may look at others and wonder why their blessings seem to arrive effortlessly while yours feels contested. Comparison breeds discouragement. It blinds you to your unique assignment. What is addressed to you is not identical to what was addressed to someone else. Different packages require different levels of protection. Different callings attract different levels of resistance. Do not misinterpret the intensity of your battle as a sign of lesser favor. It may be evidence of greater purpose. The enemy also uses fatigue. Emotional fatigue. Spiritual fatigue. Mental fatigue. If he cannot stop the delivery, he attempts to exhaust the receiver. Because an exhausted person may not have the energy to declare, to stand firm, to respond quickly. But awareness revives strength. When you understand the strategy, you regain clarity. And clarity restores energy. Exposure shifts power back into your hands. Once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. When distraction tries to pull you away, you refocus. When doubt whispers, you counter it with declaration. When delay frustrates you, you remind yourself that preparation often feels invisible. When accusation surfaces, you reject it and stand in identity. The enemy's greatest advantage was secrecy, and secrecy has been broken. February 28th is not just about receiving a blessing. It is about reclaiming authority. It is about recognizing that interception attempts lose power the moment they are identified. The enemy's strategy was designed quietly, to authorize access without confrontation. But confrontation has now occurred. The attempt has been revealed before completion. So as this date unfolds, do not interpret turbulence as a warning of loss. Interpret it as confirmation that something valuable is being guarded. The strategy has been exposed, and exposure changes outcomes. What carries your name is still on its way. The interference attempt is unraveling. And now that you see the tactics clearly, you are no longer reacting, you are positioned. There is a sound in the spirit that not everyone can hear, but those who are sensitive recognize it immediately. It is the sound of urgency. It is not panic. It is not chaos. It is a focused acceleration, like the final countdown before a launch. February 28th carries that sound. It carries the vibration of something concluding and something else beginning. And when spiritual cycles shift, urgency increases because timing matters. Every month carries its own rhythm. There is a beginning where seeds are planted. There is a middle where growth happens quietly. And there is an end where results are evaluated and transitions occur. February 28th represents more than the end of a calendar page. It represents the closing of a spiritual ledger. What was in progress is being finalized. What was pending is being reviewed. And what was delayed is being released or repositioned. This is why the atmosphere feels heightened. This is why distractions intensified. This is why resistance surfaced. Because the enemy recognizes transition points even when you do not. Spiritual urgency often feels like pressure. You may feel restless without knowing why. You may sense that something is about to change, even if you cannot yet define it. That sensation is not anxiety. It is anticipation. It is the internal recognition that you are standing at a threshold, and thresholds demand decisions. They require awareness. They require response. The phrase 15 seconds left is symbolic of this threshold moment. In a race, the final seconds determine the outcome. In a game, the final countdown carries more weight than the opening minutes. In a launch sequence, the final seconds activate systems that were prepared long before the countdown began. That is what this moment represents. The systems have already been prepared in the unseen realm. Approval has already been granted. Protection has already been assigned. But now activation is required. Urgency also reveals value. When something is insignificant, there is no rush attached to it. No one fights for what does not matter. No one intercepts what has no impact. The intensity surrounding February 28th is evidence that what is moving toward you carries consequence. It carries ripple effects beyond this single moment. The enemy's urgency to intercept is a reflection of heaven's urgency to deliver. There are deadlines in the unseen realm just as there are in the natural world. Opportunities have windows. Seasons have expiration points. Not because heaven is harsh, but because timing aligns with purpose. When preparation meets appointed time, action must follow. If you have ever sensed that something was now or never, you understand this principle. That feeling is not always dramatic, but it is decisive. Right now, spiritual urgency is asking you one question. Are you ready to receive? Readiness is not about perfection. It is about alignment. It is about awareness. It is about standing in agreement rather than hesitation. When urgency rises, clarity becomes critical. You cannot afford to drift emotionally. You cannot afford to entertain doubt. You cannot afford to step back from the door. There is also a corporate aspect to this urgency. You are not the only one standing in a transition moment. Many are experiencing similar pressure, similar intensity, similar unexpected opposition. That is because collective cycles are shifting. February does not close quietly. It closes with recalibration. And recalibration always produces friction before it produces flow. The enemy thrives in moments when urgency is misinterpreted as fear. He wants you to panic. He wants you to react impulsively. But spiritual urgency is not about panic. It is about precision. It calls you to focus, not frenzy. It invites you to declare, not withdraw. It strengthens awareness so that interception attempts cannot succeed. Listen closely to the sound of this moment. It is not the sound of defeat. It is not the sound of abandonment. It is the sound of gears shifting. It is the sound of alignment locking into place. It is the sound of a delivery approaching its destination. And when a delivery nears its final stop, movement intensifies. February 28th is a hinge point. What you decide here influences what unfolds next. Urgency is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to activate you. It is heaven's way of saying this matters. Pay attention. Stand ready. When you respond correctly to urgency, you move with timing rather than against it. As the clock moves forward, remember this. Urgency is proof of motion. Stillness does not create countdowns. Only movement does. And movement means progress. The sound you are hearing in your spirit is the sound of progress accelerating. Do not mislabel it. Do not resist it. Align with it. The final seconds of any transition feel intense because they carry the weight of completion. But completion leads to release. And release leads to manifestation. The urgency of this moment is not here to harm you. It is here to prepare you. February 28th is closing one chapter and opening another, and the sound of spiritual urgency is the announcement that the page is turning. Now that the strategy has been exposed, the urgency has been explained, and the intervention has been revealed, the question becomes practical and personal. How do you actually claim what belongs to you? How do you ensure that what heaven has dispatched is received, opened, and secured in your life? This is not about physical action. It is about spiritual positioning. It is about alignment, declaration, and authority exercised at the right moment. The first step to claiming what belongs to you is recognition. You must acknowledge that the blessing exists. You must accept that something has truly been prepared and assigned to you. Many people struggle at this stage because they have grown accustomed to disappointment. When delays stretch long, expectation weakens. When prayers seem unanswered, hope can quietly shrink. But you cannot claim what you refuse to believe is real. Recognition restores expectation, and expectation prepares you to receive. The second step is agreement. Agreement is powerful because it aligns your will with what heaven has already authorized. When you declare internally and externally, "I receive what has my name on it," you are not forcing something to happen. You are cooperating with what has already been approved. Agreement closes the door to counterfeit signatures. It makes it clear that there is no vacancy for interference. In spiritual matters, clarity repels confusion. The third step is rejection of unauthorized access. This is where many hesitate. It feels confrontational, but it is necessary. You must consciously reject doubt, fear, accusation, and distraction. You do not entertain them. You do not negotiate with them. You recognize them as attempts to forge authorization. When a thought arises that says, "Maybe this is not for you," you respond firmly, "If it carries my name, it belongs to me." That is not arrogance. That is alignment. Another critical step is breaking silent agreements. Sometimes, without realizing it, you have agreed with limitation. Perhaps you have said things like, "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I always miss my moment." These statements become subtle signatures. They create patterns of expectation that weaken authority. February 28th is not only about claiming a blessing. It is about revoking past agreements that no longer serve your destiny. You have the power to withdraw consent from negative narratives. Faith must also become active. Faith is not passive optimism. It is confident expectation combined with decisive action. That action may be as simple as speaking aloud in your space, declaring that what heaven has released will not be intercepted. It may mean refusing to react emotionally to sudden distractions. It may mean choosing peace when pressure increases. Faith demonstrates that you believe the delivery is real and imminent. You must also guard your focus. When something valuable is about to arrive, your attention becomes a target. The enemy will try to redirect your energy into arguments, unnecessary stress, or emotional exhaustion. Guarding your focus means intentionally centering yourself in clarity. It means remembering what has been revealed. It means reminding yourself that urgency is activation, not panic. There is power in immediacy. The phrase 15 seconds left symbolizes decisive response. When you sense the knock, you do not delay. You do not debate your worthiness. You step forward. You open. You claim. The enemy thrives in hesitation, but he loses leverage when you move quickly in alignment. Swift agreement seals authorization. It is also important to understand that claiming your blessing does not require striving. You are not earning it in this moment. You are receiving it. Striving suggests you are trying to manufacture something. Receiving acknowledges that it has already been prepared. There is a difference between chasing and claiming. Chasing implies uncertainty. Claiming implies confidence. Some of you may feel resistance even as you hear this. That resistance may manifest as fatigue or skepticism, but resistance often surfaces when breakthrough is closest. Do not interpret it as a sign to withdraw. Interpret it as confirmation that you are standing at the threshold. The closer you are to manifestation, the louder interference may attempt to become. But interference without agreement cannot prevail. Claiming what belongs to you also involves gratitude in advance. Gratitude signals certainty. It declares that you trust the process already set in motion. When you thank heaven before you see the result, you reinforce your agreement. You demonstrate that your signature is firm and unwavering. Finally, understand that this moment is not isolated. How you respond now shapes how you respond in future transitions. Authority grows with practice. Confidence strengthens with each victory. February 28th is teaching you how to stand, how to recognize tactics, how to declare ownership without apology. A door is in front of you. The package carries your name. The attempt to intercept has been exposed. Protection is active. Urgency is clear. Now the responsibility is yours. Step forward spiritually. Open what has been sent. Claim it without hesitation. What belongs to you does not require permission from opposition. It requires your agreement. There comes a point in every spiritual battle where information is no longer enough. Revelation has been given. The strategy has been exposed. Protection has been assigned. The urgency has been sounded. But none of it replaces the necessity of a decision. February 28th is the decision point. It is the dividing line between hesitation and activation. It is the space where awareness must become action. You have been warned that there is a package with your name on it. You have been shown that the enemy attempted to sign for it. You have been reminded that Archangel Michael is enforcing what heaven has authorized. Now everything narrows into one simple but powerful question. Will you step forward, or will you hesitate? Hesitation often feels harmless. It feels like caution. It feels like waiting for more confirmation. But in moments of divine urgency, hesitation can cost timing. The enemy does not need permanent access. He only needs temporary delay. If he can cause you to pause long enough, he attempts to create confusion in the transfer process. That is why this moment matters so deeply. The window is not indefinite. The countdown symbolizes immediacy. Activation, on the other hand, is decisive. Activation says, I will not let fear narrate this moment. Activation declares, what belongs to me will not be misdirected. It does not require shouting. It requires certainty. It requires a settled decision within your spirit that you will not retreat from what heaven has prepared. Many people miss breakthroughs not because they were unworthy, but because they hesitated at the threshold. They second-guessed themselves. They overanalyzed the timing. They allowed doubt to whisper louder than promise. February 28th is not inviting you to overthink. It is inviting you to trust what has already been revealed. There is also a deeper layer to this decision. It is not only about receiving a blessing. It is about stepping into a new level of authority. When you activate your agreement, you demonstrate maturity in the spirit. You show that you understand how timing works. You prove that you recognize the difference between distraction and destiny. The enemy thrives when you are indecisive. Indecision creates vulnerability. It leaves space for narratives to compete. But clarity shuts down competition. When you say firmly, "This is mine, and I will claim it," you close the door to counterfeit authorization. You establish boundaries that interference cannot legally cross. This moment of decision may feel weighty because it carries consequence. The transition of February 28th is not a minor adjustment. It is a hinge point. What you decide here influences what unfolds in the next chapter. And the pressure you feel is not a warning of danger, it is the intensity of transformation. You may notice thoughts trying to resurface as you stand at this decision point. Memories of past disappointments, fear of hoping again, concern about what others will think if you step forward boldly. But remember, those thoughts are echoes of old battles. They are not indicators of your current authority. You are not the same person who faced those past moments. You have grown. You have endured. You have learned to recognize tactics. Activation requires courage, but it is not reckless. It is aligned. It is intentional. It is rooted in revelation. You are not stepping forward blindly. You are stepping forward informed. You know the strategy. You know the timing. You know the protection surrounding you. That knowledge removes excuses for hesitation. February 28th is the intersection of revelation and response. If you hesitate, the window narrows. If you activate, the door opens. And once it opens, acceleration follows. Momentum builds quickly after decisive action. That is why the enemy fears your decision more than your potential. Potential is theoretical. Decision is transformative. Right now, in this very moment, you are being asked to choose activation, to choose confidence, to choose alignment. The atmosphere around you may feel charged because this is not a passive transition. It is a crossing. It is the difference between standing outside and stepping inside. Do not allow this to become just another message you listened to and then moved on from. Let it become a pivot. Let it become the moment you decided that hesitation would no longer define your responses. What you are about to step into requires certainty, and certainty begins with a decision. You will be grateful you stood firm when the manifestation confirms what was spoken. What comes next will validate this urgency in ways you cannot yet see. Type "I choose activation" in the comments if you are stepping forward in this moment. Lesson code 444 is now activated. As you make this decision, I want you to understand something powerful. When you support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not simply giving financially. You are activating faith beyond your own life. Just as you chose not to hesitate in claiming your blessing, your generosity becomes a prophetic act that helps others reach their moment of decision. The word declares that when you sow into good ground, the harvest multiplies, pressed down and overflowing, and I speak that overflow over every giver now. If this message ignited something in you, let your action follow your conviction. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and the QR code on your screen is a gateway of obedience. Do not delay what heaven is prompting. Seal your activation with bold generosity. There are moments when a message is meant only for one person, and then there are moments when a message carries collective urgency. February 28th is not just your turning point. It is a crossroads for many who are standing in their own unseen countdown. While you have been awakened to the signature war over your blessing, there are others who are still unaware that interception is even possible. They sense pressure. They feel distraction. They notice unusual resistance. But they have not yet recognized what is happening behind the scenes. That is why this part matters. This is not only about you securing your package. It is about broadcasting the warning so others can secure theirs. When heaven releases an alert, it is rarely isolated. There is often a ripple effect. Just as storms move across regions rather than single houses, spiritual shifts impact multiple lives at once. February 28th carries collective movement. It marks a transition point not just for individuals but for families, assignments, and future pathways. If you were awakened to this message, it is not random. It may be because you are positioned to alert someone else. The enemy thrives in silence. He relies on people being unaware of tactics. If someone does not know that a counterfeit signature is possible, they are less likely to guard their agreement. But when awareness spreads, interference weakens. Exposure reduces advantage. That is why sharing this message is not a casual action. It is participation in protection. You may already have someone in mind. A friend who had been unusually discouraged this week. A family member who feels like opportunities keep slipping away. A colleague who keeps saying, "I don't know why everything feels off." These are not coincidences. These may be signs of their own 15-second window. And what if your decision to share this warning is the very thing that helps them recognize what is happening? There is power in collective declaration. When multiple voices rise in agreement, the atmosphere shifts more rapidly. The enemy may attempt to isolate individuals, but he cannot overpower unified awareness. When a message spreads, it multiplies strength. February 28th is not only about a personal claim, it is about a community standing alert. If this message has stirred you, do not keep it to yourself. Like this video as a public declaration that you stand in agreement. When you like it, you amplify the reach of this warning to others who may need it urgently. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, because spiritual alerts are not seasonal. They are ongoing. There are future transitions, future countdowns, future breakthroughs that require awareness. Share this video with someone specific. Send it directly. Do not assume they will stumble upon it. Your intentional action can interrupt an interception attempt in their life. And in the comments, write, "I will not stay silent." Your words matter more than you realize. Becoming a watchman for others is an act of maturity. It means you understand that breakthrough is not meant to be hoarded. It is meant to be extended. The warning you received is not only a gift, it is a responsibility. When you help someone else recognize their authority, you weaken the enemy's influence beyond your own sphere. February 28th is closing fast. The urgency you felt was not exaggerated. It was strategic. And there are others who still need clarity before this cycle completes. Imagine how different outcomes could be if more people were aware of the signature war. Imagine how many delays could be prevented if hesitation was replaced with activation across multiple lives. There's also something powerful about obedience and sharing. When you respond to a prompting to spread awareness, you align yourself with heaven's heart. Heaven does not withhold warning. It reveals before consequences unfold. And when you participate in revealing, you reflect that same heart. Do not underestimate the ripple effect of a single share, a single comment, a single invitation to watch. Movements often begin quietly, with one person deciding not to stay silent. February 28th may be remembered not just as the day you claimed your blessing, but as the day you helped someone else claim theirs. And as this message continues to spread, something larger begins to form, a network of awakened individuals who recognize timing, who reject counterfeit authorization, who stand firm at their doors. The enemy's strategy weakens when awareness multiplies. The more people who know, the less room deception has to operate. This is your moment to broadcast the warning, not out of fear but out of clarity, not out of panic but out of purpose. You were awakened for a reason. Now extend that awakening outward. There is something deeply personal about hearing your own name spoken with intention. It captures your attention. It reminds you that you are seen. It confirms that you are not invisible in a crowd. And in this moment surrounding February 28th, there is a sound echoing in the unseen realm, the sound of your name being spoken in connection with promise. This is not general favor floating in the atmosphere. This is targeted. This is intentional. This is specific. Your name is attached to what heaven has authorized. For a long time, you may have felt overlooked. You may have questioned whether your prayers were reaching beyond the ceiling. You may have wondered if your waiting had meaning. But what you could not hear during the silence was the processing of your assignment. Your name was being reviewed in rooms you could not enter. Your case was being considered in dimensions you could not see. And approval was not random. It was deliberate. When heaven speaks your name, it does not do so casually, and does so with purpose, and does so with clarity. It does so with full awareness of your history, your weaknesses, your strengths, your endurance, and your potential. Nothing about you surprised the one who authorized your blessing. Nothing about your past disqualified you from what was prepared. In fact, many of the very experiences you thought disqualified you were the exact preparation required for what is now being delivered. February 28th is significant because it marks the moment when what was spoken privately about you begins to manifest publicly. There is a transition from discussion to delivery, from approval to arrival. And the sound of your name in heaven is what ensures that this delivery does not get lost in transit. The enemy attempted to interfere because he understands the power of identity. If he can distort how you see yourself, he can weaken how you respond to opportunity. If he can convince you that you are ordinary, he can reduce your expectation of extraordinary outcomes. But heaven does not call you by labels of limitation. Heaven calls you by destiny. There is a difference between wishing for blessing and being assigned one. A way is uncertain. An assignment is intentional. And what is happening around February 28th is not wishful thinking. It is fulfillment of assignment. The package with your name on it carries not only breakthrough, but confirmation of identity. It confirms that you were not forgotten during the delay. It confirms that your endurance was not wasted. It confirms that your waiting had direction. Some of you need to hear this clearly. Your name was never removed from the list. Even when you doubted yourself, heaven did not doubt you. Even when you felt stagnant, progress was occurring behind the scenes. Even when you considered settling for less, your original authorization remained intact. There is also restoration connected to this moment. If something felt stolen in previous seasons, an opportunity, a relationship, a sense of confidence, this delivery carries restoration within it. When heaven re-speaks your name over a situation, it overrides past narratives. It re-establishes alignment. It grabs misdirection. The enemy may have attempted to delay, but he could not erase. As February 28th unfolds, listen closely to the subtle confirmations around you. Doors that begin to open unexpectedly. Conversations that align at the right time. clarity replacing confusion. These are signs that your name is being called forward. These are indicators that authorization is transitioning into manifestation. There is also responsibility attached to hearing your name. When you recognize that something was specifically assigned to you, you can no longer approach it casually. You step into it with awareness. You protect it. You steward it. You honor it. Because you understand that it was not accidental. The sound of your name in heaven also silences comparison. What is yours does not need to look like someone else's story. Your package may arrive differently. It may unfold uniquely. But its uniqueness is part of its precision. Do not measure your delivery against another person's timeline. Measure it against your assignment. February 28th is not just the end of a month. It is the moment when identity aligns with inheritance, when calling intersects with opportunity, when what was spoken about you becomes visible around you. The enemy attempted to create confusion around your name, but confusion cannot withstand clarity, and clarity has arrived. You are not chasing something undefined. You are receiving something designated. Your name has been spoken. Your assignment has been confirmed. Your delivery is not anonymous. It is personal. Stand confidently in that truth. Let it anchor you. Let it steady you. The sound of your name in heaven is stronger than any whisper of doubt on earth. And as that sound continues to echo, manifestation follows. There is a distinct shift that happens when authorization turns into manifestation. It is subtle at first, almost quiet, but unmistakable once it begins. February 28th has carried urgency, exposure, decision, and declaration. But now we arrive at the release. The release is the moment when what has been processed, protected, and preserved finally moves from the unseen into the tangible. It is when the knock becomes the opening. It is when the waiting gives way to receiving. The release does not always arrive with dramatic noise. Sometimes it enters like a calm settling over your spirit, a sudden peace replacing weeks of pressure, a clarity that cuts through confusion, a door that opens without the resistance you expected. When release begins, tension starts dissolving. The weight you were carrying feels lighter because what was pending is no longer uncertain. For weeks, maybe months, you sensed that something was building. You felt the preparation stage, even if you did not have language for it. You endured stretching, pruning, refining. It was uncomfortable. It felt so. But preparation is never wasted. Preparation creates capacity. And now capacity meets fulfillment. The enemy's attempt to sign for your package hath been blocked. The counterfeit authorization has failed. And what remains is the rightful transfer. When release happens, it confirms that interference never had the final say. It proves that exposure and activation were not in vain. It validates every declaration you made during the countdown. Release also carries restoration. If you lost time in previous seasons, the new momentum can feel accelerated. Things begin aligning quickly. Conversations that were delayed suddenly happen. Opportunities that seemed distant move closer. Connections that felt strained begin to repair. This is not coincidence. It is the unfolding of what was already authorized. There is often a temptation to analyze the release too heavily, to question whether it is real, to wonder if it will last. But overanalysis can reintroduce hesitation. The purpose of release is not to create new anxiety. It is to establish stability. When heaven releases something, it does so with intention to sustain, not to tease. Peace becomes one of the first indicators. Not the absence of activity, but the presence of assurance. You sense internally that the struggle has shifted. Even if circumstances are still adjusting, your spirit feels anchored. That anchoring is evidence that the transfer has occurred. Gratitude becomes the next response. Genuine gratitude, not forced optimism. You recognize that what is unfolding is bigger than coincidence. You see how previous delays shaped your readiness. You understand why timing mattered. And instead of resentment over the wait, you feel appreciation for the precision. Release also requires stewardship. When something valuable arrives, it must be handled with care. This blessing, this breakthrough, this answered prayer carries responsibility. Not pressure, but purpose. You protect what you prayed for. You nurture what you received. You honor the process that brought it into your hands. February 28th will not be remembered as a day of loss. It will be remembered as a day of confirmation. A day when the enemy's attempt to intercept was exposed and overturned. A day when your agreement aligned with heaven's authorization. A day when release replaced resistance. You may notice subtle confirmations around you now. Words of encouragement arriving at the right time. Unexpected favor. A shift in atmosphere within your home or workplace. These are signs that the delivery has landed. Not every blessing arrives with fireworks. Some arrive with alignment. Do not minimize what is happening because it feels calm. Sometimes the most powerful moves of heaven are the quietest. Noise is not proof of impact. Stability is. And stability is what release produces. As you step forward from this moment, carry the confidence that comes from knowing you stood firm during the signature war. You did not surrender to hesitation. You did not accept counterfeit narratives. You aligned. You declared. You activated. And now you are witnessing the fruit of that alignment. Release is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a new chapter. What you receive now sets the stage for what unfolds next. Momentum will continue building. Doors will continue opening. And your understanding of authority will deepen because you experienced firsthand how awareness changes outcomes. February 28th with the threshold. The release is the crossing. And you have crossed it. Stand in the peace of that truth. Let gratitude steady you. Let confidence guide you. What was authorized had been delivered. And what has been delivered is now secure in your hands. We have walked through the urgency. We have uncovered the strategy. We have witnessed the intervention. We have stood at the door. And now we arrive at the final declaration. Your blessing is secured. February 28th was never meant to end in loss. It was meant to end in victory. The countdown was not a warning of defeat. It was an invitation to awareness. And because you responded, because you activated instead of hesitated, the outcome has shifted permanently in your favor. The enemy attempted to sign for your package. He tried distraction. He tried doubt. He tried delay. He tried to whisper that you were unworthy, unprepared, unseen. But none of those tactics carried your authority. None of them carried your name. And in the end, exposure dismantled deception. What was hidden was brought into the light. What was attempted with blood. What was authorized remained intact. There is something powerful about knowing that you stood firm in a moment that mattered. February 28th will not simply be another date on your calendar. It will be remembered as the day you chose alignment over anxiety. The day you chose activation over hesitation. The day you declared that what heaven prepared would not be misdirected. Your blessing is secured not because there was no opposition, but because opposition did not have the final word. Security does not mean the absence of challenge. It means the presence of authority. And authority was exercised. You recognized the signature war and placed your agreement where it belonged. You aligned your voice with heaven's authorization. You stood in awareness while others may have remained unaware. Now peace replaces pressure. Confidence replaces confusion. Assurance replaces uncertainty. The urgency that once felt intense now transforms into stability. What was in transit is now in your hands. What was contested is now confirmed. What was threatened is now protected. But understand this clearly. The securing of your blessing is not only about this moment. It is about your growth. You have learned how to recognize tactics. You have learned how to respond quickly. You have learned how to guard your agreement. These lessons will serve you in future transitions. You are not the same person who entered this countdown. You are stronger. Yabber. More aware. There is also joy attached to this final declaration. Joy that does not depend on visible evidence alone, but on spiritual certainty. You know that what was promised was preserved. You know that what was assigned was delivered. You know that your name was never removed from the authorization. As this chapter closes, lift your eyes beyond the urgency you just experienced. See the larger picture. This was not random. It was refinement. It was preparation for greater responsibility, greater impact, greater influence. The enemy fought hard because the assignment attached to your life carries weight, and weight attracts resistance, but it also attracts reinforcement. Walk forward now with boldness. Do not shrink back into old patterns of hesitation. Do not reintroduce doubt where confidence has been established. Let this victory anchor your faith. Let it remind you that awareness changes outcomes and that your agreement carries power. And as we seal this message, I want you to participate in this final act of declaration. Type IT is secured in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 2024 is now activated. As your blessing stands secured, this mission to awaken others must continue with even greater strength. When you sow through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not supporting a platform. You are extending protection and revelation to souls standing at their own February 28th moment. The word declares that when you give, it is returned to you multiplied, overflowing, and I speak that multiplication over every seed sown here. I feel led to say this plainly. I am inviting you to stand with this assignment so that more people hear the warning before interception occurs. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code on your screen is your doorway to act now. Do not delay obedience when heaven is stirring your heart. Seal this victory with generosity and watch how heaven responds. This is the end of the countdown, but it is the beginning of manifestation. Your blessing is secured. Your authority is strengthened. Your future is shifting. Walk forward in peace, knowing that what carries your name remains in your hands, and no enemy can sign for it again.